Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome to Hearts Round 4, the New Order, Last Days of Europe, as Omsk, or should I say the West Siberian Provisional Authority. In the last video, we finished up the thieves in Yugra, the gulag holders in Vorkuta, and the aviators in Surgut, and we've unified Western Siberia. Now we still have a few focuses to finish up first, before anything else. But until then, we might as well get started, So let's go from gulags to training camps. The gulags are honestly of little use as prisons. We have Yugorsk and the Redemptionary Brigades, after all. However, they are still isolated, well-supplied fortresses in a hostile climate, perfect as training facilities for the cadres. Nowhere else in Russia can a man experience the worst punishments that the motherland is capable of inflicting upon her unruly children. Some might question the wisdom of sending a soft-hearted young men to an old prison in the Arctic Circle, where the wind alone can freeze the blood in one's veins. We say, Mother Russia made Vorkuta to test her people. Who are we to question the wisdom of the motherland? In the north, boys might become heroes or monsters in equal measure, as intended, as indeed they must, to succeed in the great trial. Well, there we go. Oh man, it's been a while since I've sat down and played a game. The power internet situation over here has been a little whack. I've talked about it on the Discord, which if you're not a part of, feel free to join. But in case you're not, there's been a crazy ass snowstorm up where I'm at in my little part of California. Like we're talking about feet. Like I think there's like 2-3 feet up where I'm at, and it finally stopped snowing today for a day or so. Which is good because I, got to dig my car out. I got to do some stuff coming up. So, yeah. Ooh, we are losing political power. That is not nice at all. Especially seeing how, we're going to need that political power. I should have probably held off on doing the, on unifying. But, what are you going to do? Let's go ahead and solidify control all here. The far north, it is not an easy place to rule. Though there is no war of rebellions, the distances between settlements are vast, and communication is spotty on the best of days. Patrols can simply vanish during a blizzard, frozen in their uniforms and buried to their neck in snow. I relate to that right now, fuck. Only the motherland knows how many of her children lie beneath her frigid mantle after so many centuries. Yet rule it we must. The North might not seem important now, but it will play an important role in the future when the time comes for our collective judgment. The North is our punishment, but it will also prove to be our salvation in time. Well, there we are. Yeah, we got, Ooh! American supplies arrive. Interesting. A new shipment of weapons, ammo, clothing, medical supplies, and much more has arrived at our borders, supplied by the generosity of the CIA, so that we can use these guns on our enemies, and eventually on the Germans that destroyed our nation. These weapons have traveled over great oceans, through hostile territories in horse-drawn wagons and sleighs before finally arriving here. Undoubtedly, there's only a fraction of that the Americans actually shipped us, as corrupt officials and bandits would have been paid off with some bounty. But what we have received will be more than enough to equip some battalions with better weapons to continue our fight to unite Russia. Spasibo, Americanets. Cheers, man. I'll drink to that, fellas. We might have to silent dissent, actually, so we can stay in the positive. It's a good thing that button's there, actually. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you, Bobby. Bobby's just looking out for us. Gennady Vladimirovich Vorobyov was frozen. His eyes, his tongue, his teeth, his skin, his testicles, his heart. All of it was stiff and cold, lifeless. and soon his brain would join them and he would be dead. But he would also be free from Vorkuta. He couldn't wait. He trudged through the endless ice and snow, rifle in hand. He shivered and pulled his thin overcoat tight to his body, shifting his backpack from one shoulder to the other. The wind stabbed at him like a driven nail. None of what he was given was meant for weather like this. His coat and hat were too thin, and his boots were waterlogged. He felt naked. The exercise was simple: make it back to Vorkuta. The only problem was his numb fingers dropped the compass the first time he took it out. It shattered, and without that, his map was useless. So he started walking in the vague direction of home. That was 1 or 2 days ago. Sunlight was scarce above the Arctic Circle. He only got 2 or 3 hours at best. That left him with pain and the cold. A loose chunk of ice brought his boot out from under him. He put his free hand out to break his fall and landed hard on his arm, twisting his hand to the side further than nature would allow. An involuntary scream burst from his throat as he rolled it onto his back. Staggering to his feet, he glanced at the brown-red stain spreading down his sleeve and kept walking. Between the pain hammering his brain and his great heaving breaths, a realization dawned on him. No man could survive this. This was a culling. The weak would freeze, and the strong would rise. He repeated that in his head as the black flesh in his extremities spread and the sun sank once again below the Arctic horizon. There will be no weakness in the League. Yeah. It's harmless stuff, I'm sure. Nothing bad going on in Omsk. I don't know why you'd say that. We're integrating Vorkuta, very good. The last bit of nation we have to reunify. Caffeine flow. Luxuries such as steamed coffee were once rare commodities during the chaos of the late 50s and early 60s, only available to those with both money connections and utterly out of reach for most of the population. However, as Russia stabilized, access to the global economy has drastically improved, and now once rare commodities are being imported in increasingly large amounts: chocolates, fruits, foreign wines, and of course, coffee and tea. Now access to caffeinated beverages is no longer a luxury restricted to privileged few, but increasingly common, if still pricey, drink of choice for many of our citizens. A toast to our future successes. Oh, that reminds me. I don't know why it reminds me. Someone pointed out, I downloaded the music mod, but I actually don't have it equipped. I just have a normal base game equipped. So, Oh yeah, this feels way better right now. Russia Peace 1. Fuck, this slaps. Please don't give me copyright strike for this shit. Okay, let's integrate the NKVD. As expected, the NKVD, trapped in Vorkuta, had little interest in fighting and capitulated without too much struggling. They are men of questionable politics, having served Bukharin loyally, but their integrity is beyond reproach. They continue to follow their orders long after the ones who issued them are gone. That is precisely what the Black League would have of all Russians. A general amnesty will be offered to Vorkuta NKVD, with a single caveat, that they shall accept service in the Internal Security Division, for so long as they are needed. All crimes and previous affiliations will be forgotten. All they have to do is don the uniform of the Black Hand, and wear it to the grave. Such is the generosity of our Glavkorik, sole representative of the motherland. There we go. Uh-oh, Poland's gone. Voring is fucking eating them. Man, this is good. I'm blanking on who recommended me this music mod, but whoever did, thank you for suggesting. This is great. But I am. The door opened, and the hallway filled with light. Yakov squinted, but wheeled himself in as quickly as his trembling hands would allow. Yakov swallowed, wiped his nose, and faced the 5 members of the Redemption Board. The man in the center had a single red line and 4 stars in his epaulets. Yakov Ivanovich Kaprinovic, conscripted into the 31st Redemptionary Service Battalion for crimes of allying with the traitorous regime and withholding valuable materials from Black League members. Duration of service in Russia, 2 years. Is this all correct? Yakov nodded, and the man made a note of the file. When he was done, he put the pen down. His eyes were like shiny black marbles under his peaked cap. He jabbed a finger at Yakov's wheelchair. How did you lose your legs? The Battle of Tobolsk. My battalion was ordered to clean a minefield. I see. Another note. Tell me, Yakov, do you believe you have been redeemed? I don't. I can't. I don't even know what redemption means. Have I bled for Russia? Have I lost countless comrades in service of the motherland and the Black League? Have I given Russia everything I had? We both know the answer to that question. He mustered what courage he had left and met the captain's eyes. But only you know what redemption means, so you tell me. The other members of the board shared looks. The captain glanced to his left, then his right, before leafing through the file laid out in front of him until he found the document with Yakov's mugshot. Welcome to the Black League. Well put, soldier. Okay. Vyatka has gone ahead and taken Onega out. We'll see how that translates in Karelia. Okay. The Netherlands has one. They're looking to Africa now. Alright, unassigned divisions. We'll go ahead and go with that. Some of these guys here. God, this music is great. Man. God damn. Okay, let's go with Shadows over West Siberia. Now that the NKVD's assets are under the control of the Black Hand, we can finally settle the last pressing matter we face, that of internal security. We have had plenty of success swaying the people of Western Siberia with both carrot and stick. Men will go a long way for extra rations. There is rarely a complaint when the factory overseers are carrying assault rifles. But it's not enough. Who knows what treason lurks in the hearts of men? Who's to say that the same people who cheer on Yazov publicly don't curse him behind his back, plotting the return of the Bolsheviks? Might there even be collaborators among us? Traitors to the Russian state and people alike. If a leak cannot be certain, perhaps the Black Hand can. We must never forget that it was the weakness of the Russians that allowed the Germans to defeat us. Our eyes must ever remain open, no matter what horrors they behold. Indeed. Pretty close to integrating Vorkuta. And it would be good to finish up, all of this, or get working on some of this. Especially the army stuff would be good, I think. And we're moving from political interference to just a flat-out professional army. Which is good. I'm wondering if we'll get to Spartan discipline. That'll be great. Casimir tutted and scratched another name off his list as he heard the familiar rumble of a gurney being pushed down the hallway behind him. Right on cue, Maxim and Luca rounded the corner into the makeshift reception area the ISD had set up in an old medical clinic. As expected, between them on a gurney lay the body of one Oleg Petrovic, though the only way one could recognize the man's identity anymore was by the toe tag someone attached to him. That took a while. Did you get anything during all the screaming? Maxim grunted and shook his head, while Luca took a moment to light up a Makarorka cigarette. Fuck's sake. Fine. Dump it and go grab another one. He looked down the list, tapping his pen thoroughly. Try Mitrofan Mikhailovic, the kid we caught near Kurgan. The pair nodded and suddenly rolled away the latest unfortunate to die under interrogation. When they returned 5 minutes later, the ISD officers were carrying a young man in a soiled red army uniform between them. A vicious red welt had formed on his temple, where someone had struck him to stop his struggling. This him, sir? Asked Luca, spitting away the end of his cigarette. Casimir ran a finger down the list to find the name again, glancing at the captive to see if a description fit. 17 or 18... Red hair, narrow jaw, corporal stripes. It's probably him. He jerked his head in the direction of the interview rooms. Alright. Back to it. The officers moved towards a hallway, but Maxim stopped behind Casimir's desk, looking thoughtful for a moment. The senior officer glanced up at his subordinate with a frown. Problem, Sergeant? Maxim shook his head. No, sir. Sorry. I was just thinking. We need new drill bits. The last guy's ribs blunted our last one. Can you put in a requisition for us? Casimir nodded curtly, and with that, his subordinate sent off down the hall to torture a teenager to death for information he didn't have. 20 in a day. A new record. We're doing great right now. We're setting records. We're setting people straight. I like it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get our authority secured. From Omsk to the Urals, from Tyumen to Vorkuta, we ascend, forged from a scattering of soldiers with nothing more than fervent patriotism and grief for the fallen motherland. The Black League is now the sole de facto authority in West Siberia. No longer are we simply called a band of madmen inhabiting a bombed-out city. Now, we are contenders. Of course, what the rest of the world thinks is irrelevant. Beyond Russia, they're only German scum. Backstabbing Japanese and traitors who allowed our great nation to perish twice over. What matters is that we know in our hearts that this is but the first step towards the end of Russia's nightmare, towards dawn for our people, and towards a glorious bloody day of wrath for Germany and the subhuman savages who call it home. There we go. Oh, god damn it. See, this is why the Tsar's too fucking weak. So we got the monarch, the other monarch, the third monarch, this place is... ooh. Not so long ago, Comrade Karbachev's dream seemed like an aspiration Yazov could never fulfill. In the wake of the old general's death, fate itself conspired against his successor. A conspiracy of traitors sought to usurp him. Bolsheviks, merchants, and criminals defied his mandate. Partisans still plagued the rightful government. But none of these things were a hindrance to the determined. In Yazov, the Black League had its Menelaus, a relentless pursuer of vengeance, possessed of an iron will and willing to pay any price for the salvation of that which he loved the most. However, Yazov knew in his heart that his mission to fulfill the sacred destiny of Russia would never get any easier. there was always another false claimant to the epithet of legitimate government. It was in the nature of the League to never be understood by lesser men. Even come the great trial, Russia would still be crawling with turncoats and faint-hearted pacifists who refused to see the purity and valor of his hate. There was only one answer: an iron boot, perpetually grinding them into the dirt while its wearer conducted the sympathy of war. For today, Yazov had his triumph, but tomorrow? Tomorrow would come the day of blood. No matter how many gallons he had to spill, Russia would pay the price for its future. It will end. Someday. I mean, I guess you don't know for sure for coup it's actually... I mean... Looks like the, Cheetah is going to push back a little bit. I was about to say, though, the monarchists were doing pretty well. And I guess, you know, it's not over quite yet for them. Oop. What do we got? This is probably gonna be what we need to do. So let's go ahead and establish a foothold. The first step in national reunification has been completed. The barriers to our control of Western Siberia, namely Kaganovic's Mad Republic and the mutinous former allies in Sverdlovsk, have been bested by our forces. This is only the beginning, however. While we may have accomplished a nominal hold on the territories once held by our immediate enemies, they are far from secure. It's time that we start solidifying our conquest and quashing any remaining dissident towards our administration, and by extent, our vision. Vglavkarek has demanded that our armed forces begin extending our systems throughout our new territories, and they shall do just that. This will be a new test for us, to ensure that our message is received by the masses outside of Omsk and its environs. Beautiful. Uh-oh. Reports continue to come in of attacks by men of a rogue militant group led by the heinous former Sverdlovsk military junta leader, Pavel Batov, as forces reportedly loyal to him have spontaneously led uprisings in several key cities against our rightful government. In Sverdlovsk and Tyumen, these rebels have succeeded in forcing out local garrisons and now proclaimed the Russian National Salvation Commission from their headquarters in Sverdlovsk. We've succeeded in identifying several key characters of the rebellion, among them Karbashev's daughter, Yelena Karbasheva, a great betrayal. Ivan Bagraman, a prominent figure in subjugated Sverdlovsk, has reportedly joined the rebels, along with Ernest Voznensky from Tyumen and Hamazov Babadzadian of Sverdlovsk. All evidence points towards these individuals working together in planning this. Pavel Batov is known for his skill in military organization and strategy, which explains the dangerous success of his movement in such a short time. His ability to manage Sverdlovsk for as long as he did is a testament to such abilities, and we believe that without this competent head, the rebellion is doomed to fail, making him a key target. The traitor Yelena Karbasheva acts as the head of interstate affairs and is already reaching out to our rivals for support, and her close personal history of our former leader makes her especially dangerous as well. Ivan Bagramyan and Hamazabs Babazadian are both former Soviet generals who served in the first trial but now find themselves opposing us. We must act quickly to ensure the early death of the rebellion. While they are weaker than us now, they have the advantage of fighting on ground where the foolish population supports them. And unless we move to wipe out those who know how strong they will grow. Death to those who betray Russia's future. Yeah, this is unfortunate. We're going to have to figure this out. Okay. So, this is the insurgency. Dre's Pavel Batov denies our cause and has formed a devastatingly effective resistance to our authority over West Siberia. Failure to deal with him would be our downfall, long before any pretensions of our great trial could be begun. So we have 10 progress towards a counter-insurgency. The insurgency is about 100 strong. We have 540 days to finish to finish this up. So, it's time to escalate ISD operations. There we go. Let's get going, boys. Yazov watched the march past as all commanders were expected to do, with all the efficiency of a gear turning against another of the contingents. Row by row, filed past him. He'd long since grown weary of these formalities. With every contingent that saluted him came another 50 to 60 men who weren't on duty against the menace. Another company lost to the pointlessness of display, of an indulgence so polished it almost escaped notice. The messenger hesitated by his ear, and Yazov started. Calming himself, he snapped, "What is it? Be quick, I'm on duty." The daughter of Karbyshev has been found." Yazov's face froze. He whispered to his fellow general and bounded away from the procession. "Where's she been found? I must know." She was the daughter of his mentor. She was owed that much, one last kindness for the man he'd never said goodbye to. But how to tell her about her father? That he'd wandered off into the forest like an old boar looking for one last fight. Oh, his head spun, but there was so much to do. A cold certainty began to slip in his gaze, and puzzle pieces fell together in his mind. He didn't find her. He found her handiwork. The messenger looked away, his fists clenched white. "We have credible information. She's working with Batov. People's Popular something." Something died in Yazov's eyes. She turned into disappointment. Saying nothing, he stalked back to his procession. At least there was one thing worth celebrating. Her father never lived to witness her disgrace. Alright, let's go ahead and do some... Navy stuff is pointless at this point. Let's do some research for computers. So this is going to take up a lot of command power. Our daily gain of command power is actually pretty good, so I'm not too worried about that necessarily. So we've established a foothold. We're going to want to go ahead and start working on... Ooh. Yeah, a lot of this shit is rough, actually. Wow. So we are going to improve our poverty rate, it looks like. That's good. That is good. We're going to get a lot of army professionalism improvements. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, let's go ahead and hunt down the bandits. The perfidious Pavel Batov, one of the key stakeholders in the former Sverdlovsk administration, eluded capture when he marched into the city, since Femis headed a group of so-called freedom fighters who seek to subvert our authority. These freedom fighters are little more than bandit rabble, no better than those who steal from their own people. The defeat of these bandits are paramount to the extension of our authority throughout the western Siberia. Luckily, our soldiers already have a sizable amount of experience in counterinsurgency operations, but Glavkarek and our high command has already put a proposal together to ensure that we finish Batov and his followers quickly and efficiently. A combination of infiltration, raiding warfare, and shows of force will grind these rebels into dust. Very well. We're working on new artillery, light aircraft. Might be a good idea to get working on the new generation of jet engines. Start getting an Air Force going. It was an unusually cold morning in Omsk. Frost had formed on the windows overnight, obscuring the view of the outside world. Izov considered opening the window to scrape it off, then decided against it. He turned back to Pitovernov, only to find him still buried in the newest report on production numbers. Izov had skimmed the report earlier, and it seemed to contain mostly good news, though he had called Pitovernov into his office to confirm that. The economist, always a man of details, had been reading the report for almost an hour, leaving Izov waiting for him to finish. In that time, Izov had made himself a cup of coffee, written a memo for commanders of the combat cadres, briefly contemplated cleaning his window, and made a list of captured partisans he wanted executed. Pitovernov cleared his throat and put down the report, finally finished with it. Izov turned to hear what they had to say. Overall, this is very promising. Obviously, there is some inefficiency from integrating the industry of reclaimed territories, but not as much as I'd anticipated. There are a few areas I'd like to tweak the production quotas, with your permission, of course. But all signs say we are heading in the right direction. Izov grinned. Permission granted. The economist nodded, then turned to leave, but before he could, Izov called out to him. Evgeny, before you leave, can I ask you for complete honesty? Pitovernov didn't even attempt to hide the confusion on his face. Of course, sir. What is it? Did you ever think we'd make it this far? The League, I mean. I suppose I never really thought about it. I just kept doing my duty, and this is where it led me. Izov chuckled. That makes sense. Recently, I've been thinking about how far we've come. Seems like just yesterday, we were fighting tooth and nail to hold on to Omsk. And now here we are, masters of Western Siberia and soon all of Russia. We cannot have done without your leadership, sir. Thank you, Evgeny. I've done everything I can to save the motherland, and thankfully it seems that this has been enough. Can I tell you something that won't leave this room? Of course. I never thought we'd actually pull it off. Yeesh. Okay, we got basic artillery. War Plan A. Nordlike. Oh god, that's a little rough to look at. Yeesh. Alright, well. Let's go ahead and get started with that. Then basic artillery. Probably get working on some improvements to it while we're here. Yeah, man. It is. Peace and brought to Vietnam. I've never seen Germany break out, you know, a Goring win. Well, I've seen him win, but I haven't seen, you know, him actually be able to do his content. So this is a little crazy. But here we are. Glaverick Dmitry Azov was rarely able to enjoy time to himself. His indispensable duties to the safety and preservation of the motherland were all-consuming. And although Azov remained staunchly committed to his work to a degree of some would consider unhealthy, even he understood the importance of the quieter moments. As he flipped through the pages of a fiction novel he had been working his way through the past few weeks, a rather vintage gramophone played old tunes from before the many tragedies that had befallen Russia. He wondered if there would be a place for such art in his new Russia. Before he could follow the line of thinking further, however, he felt the floor beneath him quiver and shake. The teacup on his desk, filled with piping hot liquid, began to vibrate intensely, and even his desk seemed to shift ever so slightly. As the window panes, too, began to rattle, Azov felt his stomach tighten. He knew full well what kind of force it took to cause such a racket. The Glaverick's suspicions were confirmed by a loud thump that once again shook the entire room. Rushing from his desk to peer out the window, he was met with a large, distant plume of smoke rising against the evening sky. Omsk's vast industrial sector was in that same direction, and Azov felt shock turn to anger as he began to connect the dots. With an explosion of that size, this was obviously no accident. The insurgents were getting more bold with their attacks, and they clearly weren't afraid to strike the very heart of the League. But they have gone too far this time. Not nice. Not nice at all, I gotta say. More CAS, I think, will be good. Nice, though. Maybe a bit more support artillery. A little bit of that. Do we have motorized? We don't have motorized. Maybe some... Get working on a bit of anti-air. That might be good. Just save it up in production, so if we end up doing some of the tech... Ooh. Lev Ivanov hated being so early to work. The old arms depot in Sverdlovsk tended to be rather unnerving without any of his co-workers around. With his claustrophobic concrete corridors and unreliable lighting, Lev couldn't help but feel as though someone or something was watching him, so he made his way down to a storage unit to take stock. Arriving at the door to the small arm storage, Lev immediately discovered the double doors seemed to be stuck. He groaned and tried not to think about who might have jammed the door without even bothering to fix it. Placing all his weight against the door, Lev strained as he attempted to shove the door open. No luck. Lev decided to change tactics and, perhaps against a better judgment, started to ram his shoulder into the door. Surprisingly, his first attempt worked, and Lev found himself barreling through the two doors and diving for the concrete floor. Dusting himself off, Lev stood to examine the scene. There was a weak plank of wood that now lay 8-inch twain across the floor, which appeared to have been wedged under the handles of the doors. Behind him, however, was an even more confusing scene. The armory was empty. Every crate, every weapon, every bullet was gone. In the far corner of the colossal room, he noticed the cargo bay doors were wide open. Although part of him was annoyed that he didn't think to use those again, Lev was far more concerned with what would happen when he reported this breach of security to the head of his cadre. Thieving rats. Ooh. That's not nice right there. They took all our stuff. Well, not all of our stuff, but a fair bit of it. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's implement counter-insurgent propaganda. Increase our counter-insurgency progress by 20. The map of Western Siberia was a complex mess of pins, scribbled notes, circles drawn in red ink, and various stamps. The ISD had made great strides in the pacification of the area, but there remained one more major obstacle: Marshal Batov. His photograph was pinned to the corkboard in the ISD headquarters, generously perforated with pinholes. Beneath it were arrayed various photographs of other officers from Sverdlovsk. All were dead, their eyes crossed out. But not Batov. He's got to be somewhere in the forests, surely, said one officer, tapping the circled woods north of Sverdlovsk. It just makes sense, doesn't it? He'd get lost in there just as readily as anyone else, countered his junior. No, sir, I believed him to be in Zlatovsk, possibly in the area of the capital. Hiding in plain sight works more often than you'd think, and would give him ready access to stolen weapons. Wherever the treacherous marshal was hiding, he had to be found quickly. The bandits under his command were wreaking merry havoc. Patrols went missing, bridges were blown up, supply depots raided. They knew what to do when they found him, but doing so in the first place, that was the rub. Batov was no ordinary partisan leader, but one of the finest strategists in all Russia. However, he was also still just a man. Find his weakness, and he would crumble in an instant. But he won't make this easy. What do we want to do? Let's reduce a bit of the administrative strain real quick. So despite the fact that before our most recent conquest we had no small amount of infiltrators in our rivals' administrations, the vast majority of people are still unfamiliar with the ideals and inner workings of a Black League. Their education will come in time, and their rival either fall in line or fall out of relevance. Until that happens, however, we'll have to work with a more reasonable framework. For now, we must find willing collaborators, ideological allies, or opportunists, and quash those who are unwilling to accept our victory. As we learned from the Gauntlet, sometimes our greatest enemies are within. Never again will we let those within our territory work against our vision. And as such, we cannot let any internal dissent simmer into a great fire of rebellion. So we got a couple operations we can do. It's very interesting. Smoke Pit, Dragon's Lair, Homecoming, Broken Steel. Very interesting. Let's go ahead and do... Improve counter-terror armaments. Lose a set 1,000 guns, but we'll be better prepared for this. How's the administrative strain going? It's a little rough. Not too bad now, though. Let's go ahead and strike from within. It's probably a good idea. Batov's bandits are little more than an obstacle in our greatest goal. However, even the smallest cut can fester into a life-threatening infection. We must focus on dealing with Batov and his followers as soon as possible. We must Right about that. Unfortunately, they certainly haven't made this easy for us. They hide in the hills, mountains, and forests outside of cities. The raiders seem to act like a wave, attacking and then melting away the second they're threatened. If we can't beat them on the field, we need to beat them where we can, from within. Our league already has significant experience in infiltrating closed-off organizations from when we fought with Kaganovic's Farcial State and the military remnant in Sverdlovsk. We need to prepare another infiltration, though this one may be a little less orthodox. Stepan gazed, for the 5th day in a row, in utter puzzlement at the uniformed men on patrol past his house. They wore camouflage and black helmets rather than the khaki and green of Marshal Batov's soldiers. There was something about their manner, too, which he found disconcerting. Batov's men had always chatted happily amongst themselves, stopped to talk with citizens or help them with minor tasks. These men appeared to regard Stepan and his neighbors as lesser people, not even looking their way unless it was to deliver a cold, cruel glare. On the 6th day, he mustered his courage and stepped out into the street as a patrol approached. "Excuse me! Excuse me!" The sergeant at the head of the patrol signaled for them to stop, and he approached Stepan. "Yes, citizen. Something to report?" Stepan shook his head nervously. "No, sir. I was just wondering." "Who are you men? You aren't under Marshal Batov's command, are you?" Patrol collectively glared at the citizen, who suddenly felt as though he'd made a serious mistake. The sergeant's eyes narrowed. "Because of your advanced age, I will forgive your ignorance, comrade. We are the Black League. We are Russia. The traitor Marshal has been driven from this place, and you are under our rule now. Do not forget it. Patrol, march!" With that, they were gone, polished boots hammering a tempo down the paved streets of Sverdlovsk. Stepan still didn't quite understand, but whatever was happening, he didn't like it. But he's not required to. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to cut it here. So thank you as always for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for more uploads every weekday, as well as every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concerns, anything of the sort, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get and appreciate any and all feedback you might have for me. If you want to chat or play games, I have a Patreon. If you want to send bucks my way every month, I have a Twitch. And if you want to see me do this sort of stuff live, I have a... Did I just say Twitch? I have a Twitch, Patreon, Discord. All of which are description box below. That's what I'm trying to say. There we go. That's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. My name has been DB333. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.